Hi, I hope everybody can see me and hear me okay. We had some technical difficulties, so I apologize. And I'm trying to find out where I can see the questions that come in because I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, here we go. So definitely make sure that you send in questions. But again, I apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, and now I can get started. So I'm still trying to figure out this this platform. Okay, so I'd love to hear where everybody's from. If you can just drop in the chat where you're from. My name is Amanda Rose, and I am a dating coach. I am based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And can you all let me know if you can see me okay in here? I keep getting notifications that this is streaming very low. Okay, I hope this is working, and I hope you can hear me. But anyway, so I am from Charlotte, North Carolina. I am a dating coach, and I have been doing this for over a decade. Our agency was named one of the top dating coaches in the world 2 years in a row, so I'm super excited about that. So I'd love to hear where you guys are from. Just drop in the comments where you're from. I'd love to see where everybody's tuning in from. And let me know if you can hear me and see me okay, because I'm getting some notifications. Great. Okay, so I can see some people in the chat. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today, when God writes your love story. I think this is a huge topic, super important for singles, because I've been there. I've been in the dating world. I know what it's like. I am married now, and have been with my husband for 6 years now. But I remember when I was single and I was in the dating trenches trying to figure everything out as well. And it's a lot sometimes. So I love just helping singles enjoy their experience and the journey that you're on, because it is a journey for sure. So today we're going to talk about when God writes your love story. And if you have any questions at all, please drop them in the chat. I'm just going to go on and get started with what I have to share, but I'm definitely going to check the questions and try to answer as many as I can. So, you know, when I think about being single and when I'm working with my singles, I think a lot of times I'm thinking, wouldn't it just be easier if we could just let completely go of trying, you know, to find that one, and then they would just magically appear. They would just magically drop down from the sky. We would know who they are. Everything would work out great. But unfortunately, that's not how it is. I've never heard that it happened that easy before. So it takes time. It takes patience in finding the one. It takes a lot of screening and vetting those people to find the one, or even knowing where to look to find the one. There's so many factors that go into it. And, you know, and I've been there, you know, looking on dating apps or just waiting patiently, waiting for that one, trying to control the timeline, which is never a good thing when we try to control that timeline. But I found when we let go of that and we let God write our love story, we get better results. And once I found that little secret out, that's when the magic started to happen. That's when I found my now husband. When I started to find better dating relationships, it's like it just completely started to shift. And I see that with my clients as well. And I'm going to share a few key tips on this, and what that looks like and what I have found that works for them and what worked for me too. So this is from personal experience. This is from working with thousands of singles as well, and from what I've found works for most people. And not everybody. Everybody's story is different. But I think when we focus on letting God write our love story, and I'd love if you just grab a journal or some paper and write these key things down so you can go back to them later and just revisit them as a refresher. Because sometimes, you know, when we're in the dating world and all this stuff is going on, we get frustrated or we get heartbroken, we forget these key things. So the first thing I want to talk about is when we let God write our love story, we let higher standards come in, right? So when we put the standard of God into writing our love story, we tend to focus on higher standards of what that relationship should look like. We don't settle for someone that's not good for us. We don't settle for qualities that could bring heartbreak and frustration and relationship conflicts, down the road. Of course, there's going to be conflicts. Every relationship is not perfect, but we set a higher standard of what we deserve, right? We know that we're worthy, and I want to just tell everybody on this live that you are worthy of that good relationship with that person that treats you very well and that is commitment minded and wants to create that exclusive relationship, not someone who plays dating games or is not commitment minded or is not committed to you or they're not investing in you. But when we put those higher standards on our dating life, the standards that I believe that God wants us to put on our relationships, we definitely date better, right? So the first one is higher standards. The second one, I believe, when we let God write our love story, is it leads us to that commitment-minded relationship. And often when I work with singles, I see singles that will date people that are not commitment minded. Maybe they're not emotionally available. Maybe they're not ready for a relationship. It's not leading them to their ultimate goal of being married or being in that long-term relationship. So they're not finding those commitment minded people, and they maybe sometimes think they'll change and they'll become commitment minded. But if someone's not commitment minded in the beginning, I wouldn't put my hopes in them to become commitment minded 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. If they're not ready now, then don't let that person waste your time, because your time is so, so valuable, and you want to make sure you're investing your time in someone that is investing in you, that wants the same things in life, that wants that commitment-minded relationship, maybe that wants a family, that wants to get married one day. So make sure that their long-term goals and their goals now match what you're looking for your future. Because a lot of times, I see singles sometimes that break up that they're like, well, we were dating and he didn't want kids, but I want kids, and I thought that would change over time, and we got married, and then it never changed. And there's so much heartbreak behind those type of relationships. I want singles to set themselves up for success. So when we let God write that story, it leads us to those commitment-minded relationships, those things that are long-term that our hearts desire. So that's number 2. Number 3 is when we let God write our love story, there's a focus on and this kind of goes into number 2 as well. There's a focus on long-term qualities instead of those short-term qualities. So such as, let's say, long-term qualities would be like someone, again, who's family focused, someone who's stable, like emotionally, financially stable, someone who is emotionally available, someone who has compassion, kindness, someone who doesn't have all kinds of baggage. There's so many different things. There's someone who's healed from that past or that baggage. That's a good thing. So when we focus on the long-term qualities instead of the short-term, which the short-term are usually like physical attraction or someone that's just fun and passionate, and just those are all good things, but we need to make sure they have those long-term qualities as well. And when we focus on that higher, again, that's a higher standard of dating, when we're focusing on those long-term relationship qualities that create long-term relationships and a future marriage, then we date better. We date more successfully. And it leads us to our one, instead of wasting time on the people that are not going to meet our long-term relationship needs or even our relationship goals. So number 4 that I'd like to share with you guys, and if you all have any questions, please feel free to email me afterwards too. I know we're kind of on limited time, but feel free to email me. If you think of questions and you're watching the replay of this, definitely email me at info@datingboutiqueinc.com, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Because I know I'm just covering just a kind of a glimpse into this today, and there's so much more to it, and I want to make sure I can help as many people as possible. So number 4, when God writes your love story, it often looks different than what we imagine. And I see this so much with my clients because they create a picture of what they think that love story is going to look like where they're going to meet their partner, what that partner is going to look like, what they're going to do with their partner, and they have the story already created. But sometimes we need to let go of that story and let God write it, because when he does, it creates something even more beautiful and more than what we imagined. So I tell my clients to don't be so focused on the story that you've created in your head. Yes, it's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful relationship. But I want you to let go of those like preconceived expectations sometimes of what we think the one, especially what the one should look like. Because it might not be someone with, dark hair that's 6 foot, or it could be someone that's bald and is 5'11" or 5'9". You just never know what that package is going to show up as. You never know what God is going to give us in that package. So we have to be open-minded about what that person maybe looks like, maybe where we meet them. Some people are determined to meet that person in a certain setting, or through friends and family, and they're not open to meeting that person through maybe dating apps, or who knows. There's so many different places you can meet people. So it's so important to be open to where you can meet that person, because you never know when they're going to show up. I've had people meet their exclusive, or their one on like an airplane, and one at a gas station. It was so crazy, but they met at a gas station, and that's how they started. They met, and then they started talking and dating, and now they're married. So you never know where you're going to meet that person. So be very open about that, about what it looks like to meet that person, what they're going to look like, maybe even some other things that could be, I'm not talking about non-negotiables, like core characteristics of someone. I'm talking about the characteristics that maybe that don't create that long-term relationship. And those are usually like physical looks, or, things like where you meet. So let go of those things. Also demographics. Sometimes you will meet, I have a lot of people that will only date within like a certain mile radius of their city, for example, like 20 miles from Charlotte, North Carolina. And I always tell them to open that up to 30, 40, an hour away, because you never know if that person that you're supposed to be with is just outside of that zone. So keep that open as well. And I love when people are open to dating like nationwide, or even internationally, because you can definitely make that work. I've had people make that work multiple times. So number 5, when God writes our love story, is we will go through a growth and refining process. And sometimes that's the hardest part, because God takes everything out of us that's not serving our highest good. And it can be messy, it can be hard, it can be frustrating, but it's totally worth it. And I myself went through this refining process before I met my husband. And I know a lot of my clients, I would say probably most of my clients, go through the same refining process. And there could be dating blocks that are keeping us from finding the one. It could be, healing from past hurts, relationships, maybe bitterness or unforgiveness that we still have within us. Those are things that need to be refined and healed. And when we go through that growth and refining process, we set, again, a higher standard of what we will accept into our life. And something I like to tell people is that when we teach others how to love ourselves, or love us, right? So if we treat ourselves well, we're happy, we're working on personal growth and development, and we have, we have goals, and we're doing different things in life to just experience happiness and fulfillment, and we're doing those things already. We're not waiting for someone to come into our life to start doing those things and to be happy. But when we become that person ourselves, I always say date yourself, because that will help create that like expectation and standard of how someone treats you, how someone dates you. So date yourself, take yourself on dinners and our spa days or whatever it is, and treat yourself well, because we set that standard of how others will treat us. But God will take out of us anything that is not serving our highest good if we let Him and we start that growth and refining process. And that's a whole other probably live video that I can go on for an hour about, but let me know if you have any questions about that. Because when He does that, He creates within us how to be the best partner. Because we not only want to get the best partner, but we should also want to be the best partner possible for our future spouse. So make sure that you're doing the things that are taking care of yourself now, and wellness, or doing your passions and so forth. So the last tip I have for how God writes our love stories, or when we let him write our love story, is this is something that happens. I see it every single time. Things can be removed from your life. It could be people that are maybe friends that are toxic, or it could be an ex or a relationship that is not good for you. It could be removed as well. And this is it can be very hard. It can be confusing of why a person was removed. But looking back onto my own life, I can see why certain people were removed, like exes, or because it got me to my current relationship. Or even friends that were not good for me mentally, or that were not helping with my growth. So sometimes things can be removed from your life. It could be even a job. Maybe a job's removed and you're put into a new position and you're wondering why. I mean, I've seen so many different things happen with my clients, and I always can see that there's about to be an up level in their life when something else is removed. So, and I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but sometimes that is how God writes our love story. He puts us into a better place that we wouldn't have found or done on our own, and the magic happens. So I'm just going to scroll down and see if there's any questions. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so let me check my messenger real quick. I just want to make sure and see if anybody's messaged any questions. But please, if you're watching the replay, please feel free to reach out and ask any questions. And I know sometimes you don't want to put questions online. I totally understand that. I probably wouldn't want to either. Let me just check really quick. Okay, I don't have any questions yet. But make sure you can DM me too, and I will definitely privately answer your questions so that you have confidentiality, and feel free to ask me anything about this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, either in the chat after the live ends, or even email me, info@datingboutiqueinc.com, on your thoughts behind this, what you've experienced, because I know each single has a different experience, but we're all in the same journey to find the one, right? So we're all in the same journey together, each with our own experience, which we can create into something beautiful along the way. And it's important to enjoy that journey. And I know sometimes it can be hard too, but when you let God write that love story, you will enjoy the journey and be hopeful and have positive expectations of your future. So thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to connect with everybody, and I hope you have a fabulous day, and let me know your takeaways from this live.